So we're about to go into the Naples arrangement. And this video is kind of a rehash on what it kind of goes on with what I was talking about in my last video, but much more eloquently stated. It briefly goes over the tree of life, and so we're gonna go into this. So this is to go with my series of videos on the Thoth deck. Okay, so the Book of Thoth. So we have the Thoth Tarot deck, and these videos are specifically going to deal with the Thoth deck. Okay, so the Thoth Tarot deck. So this is the Book of Thoth, and so these videos specifically go with the Thoth deck, and with this deck, the Book of Thoth. So this book specifically goes with this tarot deck. Okay, I'm going to put links in the description, and I'm going to pin a comment. If you want to buy a copy, if you use the links that I provide, I get a commission if you want to do that. It helps to monetize my comment. If not, that's cool too. But I do provide links if you want to buy the tarot deck and then the book. So these two go together. If you have one, you need the other. The Book of Thoth and the Thoth Tarot deck. So, once again, we are going into... This is the Naples arrangement. Okay. Alright. So, I'm just going to dive into the text, y'all. The next issue, I'm going to start with 2. This is page 12. If you have the Book of Thoth, this is page 12. 2, the Tarot and the Holy Cabala. So if you have a copy, you could read along. Okay? So, the next issue is the Holy Cabala. This is a very simple subject and presents no difficulties to the ordinary intelligent mind. There are 10 numbers in the decimal system. And there is a genuine reason why there should be 10 numbers, and only 10, in a numerical system, which is not merely mathematical, but philosophical. It is necessary at this point to introduce the Naples arrangement, which is what Crowley called his kind of rehash of the Tree of Life. To introduce the Naples arrangement, but first of all, one must understand the pictorial representation of the universe given by the Holy Cabala. This picture represents the Tree of Life, which is a map of the universe. And this is the glyph of the Tree of Life behind me here. This tree is quite literally, it is planted in the mind. The more you contemplate this tree, the more it grows in the correspondences, okay? So, this picture represents the Tree of Life, which is a map of the universe. One must begin, as a mathematician would, with the idea of zero, absolute zero, which turns out on examination to mean any quantity that one may choose, but not, as the layman may at first suppose, nothing, in the absence of anything vulgar sense of the word. See Bereshit, Paris, 1902. The Naples arrangement. The Kabbalists expanded this idea of nothing, and got a second kind of nothing, which they called Ein Sof, without limit. This idea seems not unlike that of space. They then decided that in order to interpret this mere absence of any means of definition, it was necessary to postulate the Ein Sof, or limitless light. By this, they seem to have meant very much what the late Victorian men of science meant, or thought they meant, by the luminous ether, the space-time continuum. All this is evidently without form and void. These are abstract conditions, not positive ideas. The next step must be the idea of position. one must formulate this thesis. If there is anything except nothing, it must exist within this boundless light, within this space, within this inconceivable nothingness, which cannot exist as nothingness, but has to be conceived of as a nothingness composed of that annihilation of two imaginary opposites. Thus appears the point, which has neither parts nor magnitude, only position. But position does not mean anything at all, unless there is something else, some other position with which it can be compared. One has to describe it. The only way to do this is to have another point, and that means one must invent the number 2, making possible the line. Okay, give me just a second. But this line does not really mean very much, because there is yet no measure of length. The limit of knowledge at this stage is that there are 2 things. In order to be able to talk about them at all. But one cannot say that they are near each other or that they are far apart. One can only say that they are distant. In order to discriminate between them at all, there must be a third thing. We must have another point. One must invent the surface. One must invent the triangle. In doing this, incidentally, appears the whole of plane geometry. One can now say A is nearer to B than A is to C. Okay, 1 second, y'all. I'm just sharing this here. All right. All right. But so far, there is no substance in any of these ideas. In fact, there are no ideas at all, except the idea of distance and perhaps the idea of betweenness and of angular measurement. So that plane geometry, which now exists in theory, is after all completely inchoate and incoherent. There has been no approach at all to the conception of a really existing thing. No more has been done than to make definitions, all in a purely ideal and imaginary world. Now then comes the abyss. One cannot go any further into the ideal. The next step must be the actual, at least an approach to the actual. There are 3 points, but there is no idea of where any one of them is. A 4th point is essential, and this formulates the idea of matter. If y'all are having problems with some of this, we're going to go a lot deeper into this. So we're just going to keep going with this. The point in these videos, we're going to delve a lot deeper into these topics. So the point, the line, the plane. The 4th point, unless it should happen to lie in the plane, gives the solid. If one wants to know the position of any point, one must define it by the use of 3 coordinate axes. It is so many feet from the north, or 3 dimensions. It is so many feet from the north wall, and so many feet from the east wall, and so many feet from the floor. Thus there has been developed from nothingness a something which can be said to exist. One has arrived at the idea of matter, but this existence is exceedingly tenuous, for the only property of any given point is its position in relation to certain other points. No change is possible. Nothing can happen. One is therefore compelled in the analysis of known reality to postulate a 5th positive idea, which is that of motion. This implies the idea of time. For only through motion and in time can any event happen. Without this change in sequence, nothing can be the object of sense. It is to be noticed that this number 5 is the number of the letter He in the Hebrew alphabet. This is the letter traditionally consecrated to the Great Mother. It is the womb in which the Great Father, who is represented by the letter Yod, which is pictorially the representation of an ultimate point, moves, and begets active existence. There is now possible a concrete idea of the point, and at last it is a point which can be self-conscious, numbered 6, Tiferet, because it can have a past, present, and future. It is able to define itself in terms of the previous ideas. Here is the number 6, the center of the system, self-conscious, capable of experience. At this stage, it is convenient to turn away for a moment from the strictly Kabbalistic symbolism. The doctrine of the next 3 numbers, to some minds at least, is not very clearly expressed. One must look in the Vedanta system for a more lucid interpretation of the numbers 7, 8, and 9, although they correspond very closely with the Kabbalistic ideas. In the Hindu analysis of existence, the rishis, or sages, postulate 3 qualities: Sat, the essence of being itself; Chit, thought or intellection; and Ananda, usually translated bliss, the pleasure experienced by being in the course of events. This ecstasy is evidently the exciting cause of the mobility of pure existence. It explains the assumption of imperfection on the part of perfection. The absolute would be nothing, would remain in the condition of nothingness, therefore, in order to be conscious of its possibilities and to enjoy them. It must explore these possibilities. One may here insert a parallel statement of this doctrine from the document called the Great Book of Auk, to enable the student to consider the position from the standpoint of 2 different minds. All elements must one time have been separate. That would have been the case with great heat. Now, when the atoms, actually let's pause here. Nope, there's just a little bit more. All elements must at one time have been separate. That would be the case with great heat. Now, when the atoms get to the sun, we get that immense extreme heat, and all the elements are themselves again. Imagine that each atom of each element possesses the memory of all his adventures and combination, or incarnations. By the way, that atom, fortified with memory, would not be the same atom. Yet it is, because it has gained nothing from anywhere except this memory. Therefore, by the lapse of time, and by virtue of memory, a thing could become something more than itself. Thus, a real development is possible. One can then see a reason for any element deciding to go through this series of incarnations. Because so, and only so, can he go, and he suffers the lapse of memory which he has during these incarnations, because he knows he will come through unchanged. Therefore, you can have an infinite number of gods, individual and equal though diverse, each one supreme and utterly indestructible. This is also the only explanation of how a being could create a world in which war, evil, etc. exist. Evil is only an appearance, because like good, it cannot affect the substance itself, but only multiply its combinations. It is something the same as mystic monotheism, but the objection to that theory is that God has to create things which are all parts of himself, so that their interplay is false. If we presuppose many elements, their interplay is natural. So instead of, These ideas of being, thought, and bliss constitute the minimum possible qualities which a point must possess if it is to have a real sensible experience of itself. These correspond to the numbers 9, 8, and 7. The first idea of reality, as known by the mind, is therefore to conceive of the point as built up of these previous 9 successive developments from 0. Here then is at last the number 10, which is the physical reality. Hold on just a second. All right. So, in other words, to describe reality in the form of knowledge, one must postulate these 10 successive ideas. In the Kabbalah, they are called Sepharot, which means numbers. As will be seen later, each number has a significance of its own. Each corresponds with all phenomena in such a way that their arrangement in the tree of life, as shown in the diagram, is a map of the universe. These 10 numbers are represented in the tarot by the 40 small cards. All right, so now we open up for commentary and we can just talk. So we went through the Naples arrangement. I tried to briefly go through, some of this in my last video, but I felt it might be better to just quote the text itself. It would be much more eloquent than what I had to say, but we could try to break this down. So this is the process of coming into being according to this ancient map called the Tree of Life, okay? So the Kabbalistic Tree of Life there's several different ways that the tree could be made. This is the most common that you'll see going around. And this is what is used in Crowley's system and in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This symbol basically represents the universe, our own psyche. Basically everything could be assigned to the Tree of Life. For example, the number 1, Keter, represents the source of all things, unity, the ground of all being. 2, Chokmah is a rush of energy. It is inspiration. It's often referred to as the Father. This is at such a high level. This is just the beginning process of creation. Remember, 10 represents the physical universe. 10, this is basically a big symbol system, okay? 10 represents the physical world. 9 represents the astral realm right above us. Really, all of these represent the astral or the different layers of the planes above us, above the physical. And these are called the supernals. And this line right here is called the abyss. This line divides the divine and human consciousness. And this divides this concept of duality, okay? Crossing the abyss. This is a type of ego. Well, it is ego death. It is crossing the abyss, okay? Crossing the abyss. This is the path of initiation. We start off in Malkuth. In the old Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and in the AA system, you work through you work up the Tree of Life as you work through the grades, okay? So this is the path of initiation, and this also shows the process of creation. And Crowley's Naples arrangement, he said that we begin with a point, a line, a surface, okay? The idea of matter, but there's no motion yet. There's just an idea of 3 dimensions. 5 here represents time and motion, which time is also related to Saturn up here. 6 represents self-consciousness. So now we can have time and space and matter, and we can have kind of an awareness, a self-consciousness. And self-consciousness, we have the passions and the thoughts, the subconscious, or this is also it's like the subconscious and the memory. And then finally we come to the material plane. So as you see, this represents all different aspects of ourselves, aspects of the universe. You could throw astrological symbols. You have Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, Earth. You have astrological symbols. You have 22 paths. These 22 paths are the 22 major arcana. And these also, those that astral project or do astral travel with the Tree of Life, often use the 22 major arcana to travel the paths, okay? Now, the tarot, okay, Whether or not it was originally devised for that purpose, we can debate that all day. Whatever the case may be, it perfectly fits. The numbers 1 through 10, these are the Sephar, and these are represented by the 1s through 10s. And the 4 suits represent in 4 worlds: Absolute, Berea, Yetzir, and Asiya. So we have the 10 Sephiroth and 4 worlds. Well, that's the 1 through 10 cards in the 4 suits. Fire is wands and the world of Absolute, 1 through 10. 1 through 10 of cups is in the world of Berea. 1 through 10 of in the element of water. 1 through 10 of swords is of air, and yet 1 through 10 of earth is Asiya in the material world and earth. Okay, now the 22 paths that connect these, and ultimately the original source for a lot of these ideas of the 22 paths and all of this goes back to the Sephar Yetzirah, which is dated differently by different people. It's probably about 2,000 years old or 1,500 years old, this text, very old text. The Sephar Yetzirah talks about the 22 paths of wisdom, or the 22 paths, and the 10 Sephiroth, okay? So, basically, you can look at this in so many ways. 10 is Malkuth. This represents the physical body. Let's look at a person. 10 is Malkuth. It's the physical body. 9 is the subconscious mind and the memory. 8 is the logic, our realm of ideas. And 7 is the passions and the emotions. 6 is our self-consciousness. So you could see that in our interaction in the world, and by the way, this is this is a very ancient way of looking at mankind, humanity. So our self-consciousness, we interact with the world, we look at the world through the lens of our memory and our thoughts and our feelings, and through our physical senses. We interact with the world, and we have these higher aspects. And these also represents our spiritual center and our core. And we have the crook and the flail of, we have the crook and the scourge of Osiris. We have that aspect of ourselves which is creative and destructive, which is mercy and severity. We have this crossing of the abyss where we have these higher aspects of consciousness and that we experience in higher states of spiritual exaltation are represented by these highest paths and these higher Sephiroth, okay? So as you work up the tree of life, you climb up the tree. This is the path of mysticism. We're starting here with our everyday consciousness and matter and working our way up to the divine source. And the path of magic, you're pulling down from the source to manifest something in the material world. So you can look at this as Jacob's ladder. We can climb up our consciousness. Really, we're climbing up in ourselves because our being is a wholeness. We have a physical body. We have a subconscious. We have ideas and memory and a solar self-consciousness. We have all these aspects within ourselves, okay? So really, we're climbing up within ourselves, more or less, okay? But again, we have to come down from the mountain, so to speak, and come back to the world, so we come back to Malkuth. But basically, these, and astral travel, people that choose to work with astral projection work, our consciousness is in this place normally. The Kabbalists say that our consciousness is in this sphere called Malkuth. This represents our everyday material consciousness, day in and day out. And what's interesting is our everyday consciousness, out there running errands, doing work, we're right here. There's all these higher levels to reality. And people that consider the physical world the only reality, well, in the Tree of Life, the physical world is like literally just the bottom of this larger layer or schema, okay? So the pathway of initiation, or the spiritual path, or the path of return in the Kabbalah is to move up the tree, to climb up Jacob's ladder, to use a metaphor, to unite with the divine. And in magic, or to manifest reality is to pull down from the source to bring something into manifestation in the material world. Okay, so these are the two paths. Going up the tree or the ladder is the path of mysticism. Coming down the tree is the path of magic, bringing things into matter. And we have both of these. And, whether astral projection or astral travel or out-of-body experiences, people that travel around in the astral plane, whether that be objectively real outside of us, or whether it be an inward journeying, like a waking dream or active imagination, whether it's within or without, either way, working with the tarot in this way, through these subtle layers of reality within ourselves or within the spiritual higher worlds, we are able to learn the lessons of the wardens at the gates and learn the spiritual lessons, explore the card, explore the energies, and move up into higher realms. And through contemplation of this symbol, through contemplation of the Tree of Life, we're even able to awaken a type of higher thinking. Through contemplating the symbols and the imagery of tarot, which is itself a picture book of initiation, we're able to step outside of ourselves and, in a sense, obtain a higher form of intellection, a higher form of thinking. Okay? It's like an evolutionary growth type of tool. And anyone that claims that you can explain this path of ascent in a video is either not telling the truth, or they don't really. It is a lot to go into, and this is part of the journey. But this is not just an intellectual kind of knowledge. This is an exploratory type of knowledge. It's a knowledge by uniting and experiencing. But I plan to go into some astral travel videos. When we will be astral traveling, the cards of the tarot can be used as types of doorways, in a sense. These are sacred paintings, emblems that meditating upon can reveal higher truths, okay? And through accessing these higher realms. I want to give you an example, okay? I want to give you an example. And this isn't that I have some great thing figured out, but it's just an example of how this is used as a meditative tool. I'll be right back. This is just from today. I'll be right back, y'all. All right. So, this here, this here, I don't know why I said it like that. I am in Texas. This is the art card. And just as an example, I'm not claiming that it's some great epiphany or, we all are capable of having realizations, but as an example of how the cards can be used for spiritual growth and a higher form of thinking. I was meditating on this card earlier, and this is the art card, and it represents change, transformation, and notice that the red lion has become white, and the white eagle has become red. The male and female have united. The fiery water at the bottom. I don't know, it just hit me. This is just an example that all change is an interaction of opposites. That one sentence, I was like, whoa. And it came to me, it seemed like it came from the card, all change, all transformation is an interaction with an opposite. And it struck me the opposing thing, which in itself shows that opposites are true, the union of opposite. The idea that without opposites or duality, we couldn't have change. Without hot versus cold, we couldn't have a change of state and temperature, as an example. Without duality, we can't experience change, okay? So, duality is change, and change is duality. So, this is just part of the daily types of reflections we have with the tarot. So this is how reflecting on symbols can open up higher forms of thinking. And that doesn't mean that the thoughts that we have are quote-unquote truth. In fact, when you're opening up doorways in your mind, through whatever, through astral travel and astral journeying, or through astral journeying, or through contemplation of cards, or spirit evocation, or any kind of thing like this, we have to be able to be open to an experience without necessarily giving objective reality to anything. Now, I've gone way off course here. As we move up, these are stages, Those of us that are in the material world, there are really three paths that are immediately connected to us. And these are represented by three tarot cards. These are the path of Thoth, which connects Malkuth and Netzach. The path of Thoth, and this is the moon card. This path is where we do a lot of shadow work. And I had some of my most interesting, even to this day, integration experiences of like uniting all aspects of ourself. Wholeness is the key here in the path of Thoth. So astral traveling in the path of Thoth, we're able to access, well, among other things, the shadow. Okay, so this card, this sacred painting or image, these are things to contemplate. Okay, this isn't just a tool for divination. Now, it can be. If that's all you want to use tarot for, that's fine. But that's the tip of the iceberg. These are tools of transformation, of growth, of spiritual like journeying and ascent and experiencing higher dimensions, all kinds of things, okay? The tarot. And it's interesting that, I did videos on tarot like 10 years ago and more, and, I feel like, this is very much needed, I plan to go through the tarot many times throughout the rest of my life. Over the decades, I plan to work through it several times, but this is now my attempt. But this path of Thoth connects Malkuth and Netzach. By learning to astral travel in this path, you can learn to interact, By learning to astral travel in this path, you can do some of this shadow work. This is the path of the universe card, the path of Tao, okay? And it leads to the lunar realm. Okay, this is the path of Sheen. It's the path of fire. Those of you that astral travel in this path, whether astral travel is an objective outside journeying, or whether astral travel is within the mind, either way, this is experienced as a kingdom of fire. In fact, when you astral travel there, it might freak you out, like, oh, fire all around. Am I on fire? And you realize it doesn't burn. It's a place of transformation and knowledge, and you may interact with kingdoms there, and you may see like higher, again, whether it's just in your mind or out there, higher dimensions, higher, like more divine realms of fire, and then more like darker forms of fire. And eventually you'll find you may have wardens there, you may have to undergo certain things. This is what those that in the AA system, as a neophyte, you have to do astral travel. Not necessarily following anyone's schema, but many of us kind of take for granted that, the Tree of Life model is kind of like where we're coming from. But however, you got to master the astral plane. But, and daily astral travel is often recommended. Daily astral projection. And anyways, moving through, but it's very important to keep your feet grounded in this reality and to not necessarily give objective reality to anything. It could be the only danger probably in astral projection is not what most people are scared of. It's getting caught in illusion, okay? We need to understand astral projection for what it is. Either way, this is experienced as a kingdom of fire that eventually leads to a realm of Mercury, okay, and this hold. And the planetary associations are really the lowest quality of the Sephar. Those are the heavens of us. This is the realm of Asaya, but there are higher qualities within them. But you're getting kind of into the behind the curtain of the machinery of the universe here. But anyways, as you go up through the grades or your path of ascent or trying to go up to find your highest self or that higher spiritual spark at your center, at your core, you're moving up the ladder of the tree of life. So, I want to make this stuff clear for everybody, and I feel like in my last video I could have been a lot clearer. So I figure I'd just quote the Book of Thoth itself, and then we'd go a little bit into this diagram. We're going to go a lot deeper into this, but this tree will grow on you. It's very much as if it is planted in the mind and grows. Remember, 10 is earth, physical plane. 9 is associated with the moon, the astral plane, the subconscious. Anything associated with the moon, any stone, plant, herb, animal, imaginary or mythical or real, any symbol that's lunar is here. Mercury, boom, here. Anything Venusian is here. But these represent more than just the planetary qualities, but this is an example. This is a solar realm. This is also represents self-consciousness, 6, and this is also the place of the holy guardian angel and our spiritual center. Okay? Here we have Mars and our strength. Here we have Jupiter and mercy and expansive quality. And then here we have the abyss. Crossing the abyss is total ego annihilation. Binah, the great mother. This is the Magister Temp. This is someone that's crossed the abyss. This is a high level. This is beyond time and space. This is like, we can be in the body, in the flesh, and still have states. Our consciousness is at a higher level. Chokmah, or the magus, that seminal spark of all things, the raw energy that comes from the monad, or the one. And beyond that, you have the 3 veils of the negative existence. I'm going to go a lot deeper into these topics, but anyways, that's my second video of the day. Yep, we're going to go deeper into these topics, and yep, I will see y'all in the next video, y'all, and yep, that's it for now, and I'll see y'all in the next video.